In a world where multi-year All-Stars have no trade value, champions are too injury-prone to be worth pennies on the dollar, and generational greats are still deciding on their relationship status with their organizations, the hottest commodity on the 2025-2026 NBA trade market might possibly be Michael Porter Jr. The 6'10 absolute bucket of a forward is having a phenomenal year, putting up almost 26 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 3.4 assists this season. Career highs in all stats, while still putting up shooting splits of 49, 40, and 83% respectively. But that still raises a question. Should the Brooklyn Nets really consider trading the 27-year-old borderline all-star at their disposal, even though he is just starting his prime? Well, be sure to click that subscribe button and stick around until the end of the video, because we are going to discuss the pros and cons to both sides of the spectrum. The main positive to trading Michael Porter Jr. is that it nearly guarantees the Nets rookies a lot more touches during this season. If we aren't trying to win, it doesn't hurt to allow our young guys the chance to take more shots and figure out what works in the major leagues. And this is really telling when you see just how many field goal attempts MPJ puts up. For example, let's look at their game against the Los Angeles Clippers, where MPJ put up 18 points on 20 field goal attempts. He wasn't even their leading scorer in their loss. Meanwhile, the Nets rookie Yegor Dwoman led the team, putting up 19 points on 7 less shots. Now, we will be talking about this more later, so stick around for that. But it is kind of crazy just how little touches Dwoman gets for being such a phenomenal shooter. And it isn't only MPJ's fault. A lot of this Nets team seems to fail in finding Dwoman open on several possessions throughout the season. I could literally make an entire video on just how frustrating it is to watch as a fan. But that's for a later date. The second pro to moving Porter stems from just kind of the upside of selling high. If you think about some of the most recent trades, like the Trae Young trade, which you could see me talk about in this video in the card above, but even with some older trades like Zach LaVine, you see how a lot of teams waste their prime time to sell on their best players and ultimately end up with diminishing returns. Now granted, this NBA trade deadline is pretty quiet, so it's unclear how much value MPJ will provide, even if he is the best piece on the market. But I could be fairly certain MPJ could get you some combo of decent young talent and decent draft capital. And this does lead us to our third positive upside to an MPJ trade, and that is the ability to move other pieces. If MPJ is traded, it almost feels like a guarantee players like Nick Claxton and Terrence Mann are also on the move. Like Porter Jr., Claxton is also 27 and Mann is 29. Neither of these guys would fit the Nets timeline of rookies ranging from around the 19 and early 20s, guys like Noah Clowney and Jalen Wilson, who are also in their early 20s, or even Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe, who are each 24 years old. Sure, you want to have some veteran presence on the roster to mentor the rookies. However, after half a season of mentorship, you could move your mentors. Let the rookies get more minutes and more touches, and if you need more veterans during the offseason, you can sign them. I don't think you'll get a first-round pick for either Claxton or Mann, but any capital is good capital. Funnily enough, this does lead us to start talking about the negatives with the MPJ trade. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. First, the Nets rookies aren't ready to take over. Dwoman is the most NBA ready in my eyes, but even he will struggle to take on the brunt of the opposing defensive forces. Wolf is a flashy player, but often loses control with his level of pace. Drake Powell is steady, but his upside seems to be more of a role player or a really good starter. Traore needs to find his rhythm, and Saraf needs a lot more work from what we have seen of him. But that would also get a lot harder for the rookies to figure out if the roster is messed with. The Nets have identity with Michael Porter Jr. at the helm. And even if we aren't winning a lot of games, players are finally starting to figure out how to play better with each other. Actually being able to win more games than I think anyone really expected us to, and still bringing up pretty close losses. MPJ is passing more, Claxton is improving his playmaking, and as the season progresses, these will improve. This also leads to issues with roster construction. The Nets have the best defense for the month of December. that has fallen off in January, but you see the blueprints for a defensive scheme. However, I think a big part of that is just because the Nets were really tall. Dwellman, Wolf, Claxton, Sharp, Clowney, and MPJ are all 6'8" or taller. Trading away both MPJ and Claxton could cause the Nets to get a lot smaller if they don't get back tall or defensive-oriented pieces. This could really hurt the defensive lineups that best help the Nets perform. But all these cons do not compare to the biggest issue, that Houston has the pick swap with the Nets in both 2027 and 2029. Even if the Nets bottom out and sell on Michael Porter Jr. and Claxton, without the ideal packages in Brooklyn's favor, the following season is going to likely give Houston a top 5 pick in at least the 2027 draft. Maybe the Nets can trade MPJ to Houston for Fred VanVleet, DFS, Tari Eason, and their 2027 first-round pick swap back, but that's pretty unlikely. I mean, we know the Warriors are desperate for a wing, but they aren't willing to trade Kuminga, Moody, and multiple first-round picks for MPJ, and I don't think the Nets are going to settle for just one first. It's kind of wild because the Warriors don't even want Kuminga, but that's besides the point. Allegedly, the Bucks are also interested, but I don't think the Nets are interested in what the Bucks have to offer. The Bucks can use Kuzma and Portis as salary filler, but the Bucks don't have a lot of draft capital. Nor will the Bucks want to part ways with their better younger pieces like Ryan Rollins. They can't even part with AJ Green until this summer. It would likely have to be Kuzma, Portis, KPJ, or Cole Anthony. I rather Cole Anthony because KPJ has his off-the-court issues. And then both the Bucks' 2031 first-round pick unprotected, and then maybe like a 2032 first-round pick swap in Brooklyn's favor. Even if it's less picks than what Brooklyn can normally get, Giannis will be 36 to 37 years old when those picks convey. So even if they are a weaker draft class, the Nets can probably bank on higher value picks if the Bucks fizzle out. Even if Giannis gets traded, you can view these picks as high-risk, high-reward kind of assets. So, should MPJ get traded? I think if the Nets can get back at least their 2027 first-round pick swap, or a boatload of draft picks, then it's a yes. If not, it might be worth it letting MPJ rock on the roster for at least one more season, hopefully building up a better team with the remaining cap space and free agency. Maybe you can get Brook Lopez for cheap on a farewell tour, Benedict Mathurin if the Pacers can't keep him, Norman Powell if he's done with Miami. You know, good mentors for the rookies that can also help win games. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you stick till the end, please consider subscribing. I'd love to hear what you guys thought. This has been Above the Net, and I'll see you all next time.